All right, folks, we are squeezing in a video because we are both very, very traumatized and let down by the Daily Wire. So if you haven't seen Lady Ballers, you can watch our reviews or comments on Lady Ballers. I had seen Vex after recording mine. Vex, thanks for doing this, hanging out, talking movies and shop with me. We've been recording some videos, so you'll see those coming out over the next couple weeks. But we're squeezing in some comments here real quick about Lady Ballers. We'll react to a few moments in the trailer, and then I'll tell you why. So, Vex, thanks for doing this. Always
My
great to have you.
pleasure. Yeah.
Why did you watch Lady Ballers? What was it that hooked you in the lead up that said, you know what? I don't have a lot of time, but I have time for Lady Ballers. What made you want to watch Lady Ballers?
Honestly, I saw the trailer and I was just like, okay. The only reason I actually went forward with watching it is because I just wanted to see what some of the critics of modern left-leaning entertainment are putting out to try and counter what's going on right now. I just wanted to see what the other side was putting out, right?
Okay.
I think for comedy too, it's like the bar is pretty low, I would say, for a half decent comedy. Because like when I think of comedies, like I think there's maybe like two movies that stand out as like, like they really get the humor down right. Like it's smart, it does everything well. Um, but most of them are just kind of like, oh, I'll have a few laughs. Like you kind of remember it for, like we all remember American Pie for the scene where he has sex with the pie, right? Or we'll remember like trying to think of what was another iconic kind of.
Well, Tropic Thunder, obviously, we have
There we
Robert
go.
Downey Jr. transformed into a black guy who refuses to come out of character, those kinds of things. You can go classic old school like me, where you go like back to Blazing Saddles and you go to Young Frankenstein and
Mhm.
Spaceballs, and Mel Brooks just has his finger on the pulse of being able to do a comedy back then, those kinds of things. But over the last really since like Hangover and all that kind of stuff, there have not been comedies. Like it is,
Mhm.
and definitely not comedies that like last, like have to, like
Yeah.
I made a comment on one of my videos about that, and someone recommended a couple to me, but I did watch Tag. It has Jeremy Renner in it. It's about
The
dudes that actually
dads,
play
right?
tag in real life or something, right? They're
Yes.
going to play tag, and it sounded so silly. I never went to see it.
Hmm.
Come to find out, it was based on a true story. Had it actually been billed that way, I probably would have seen it sooner. It
Hmm.
was actually entertaining. I'm not going to say it's in the even in the conversation with the movies that we've already mentioned.
Hmm.
But I'm with you. I saw this trailer and I thought, okay, they're selling and billing this on going for it. Like we're going to make, these types of jokes. This is what we're going to get, right? So
Hmm.
this is how it was billed, was this, right? The absurdity of it all was what we were going to get. I
Hmm.
laughed during the trailer. It had all the over the top kind of moments that you're not supposed to feel comfortable with. You're
Yeah.
laughing. Dude's just wearing a wig. There's another shot here coming up in a moment. We'll just jump right to it where yeah, right here where it's like, the wrestling thing, he grabs her and throws her down and jumps on her. It's like, okay, so the absurdity of all of this. Oh, sorry, I don't want the sound to play. Okay, I'm hooked. I want to laugh, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're not supposed to laugh, right? This is the stuff where you're supposed to be like, oh my gosh, this is like, fair enough. Let's give this movie a go. Now,
Hmm.
let me ask so you're watching the movie.
Hmm.
Give me an idea of like how far into this were you starting to be like, this is not making me laugh. Like, I don't understand what's happening.
About 10 minutes.
Only 10 minutes. Okay, see,
Yeah.
I was giving it a little more time with all the setup. Like, we're doing all the
Hmm.
setup with Jeremy Boring's coach, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. It wasn't really funny, but it was like, okay, we're setting it up. We're setting it up. We got Matt Walsh shows up in his little, because, like, it's, I don't know which shot it's in. Yeah, so this is him meeting the ex or whatever.
Hmm.
And then the Matt Walsh character shows up at some point. I don't know when it is. Um, where is she? He, she, they, whatever they would want to call themselves. Anyway, it made me laugh because I get the joke.
Might have been right before. Oh, there he is.
There it
Yeah,
is.
there we
Yeah,
go.
there it is. So I'm laughing at this point in the movie. I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. And again, but I'm still feeling like this is all just setup, right? I'm feeling like we're still going to get to the stuff, right?
Hmm.
This movie went on for about an hour,
Hmm.
and my wife says, "Is this ever going to be funny?" That literally is her line. She's like, "Is it ever going to be funny?" And I just thought to myself, and I think I paused it and was like, "Wow, you're not finding it remote." She's like, "I am so bored. I don't even want to keep watching. I'm like, no, we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch it
Hmm.
because it took about an hour into it before they were really immersed into the story with them in lady sports. Right? It took a long time before you're actually in it for what they sold. They sold us this, but
Hmm.
it took a long time to get there. Right?
Yeah. And even like the build up to that is okay. So I guess the biggest problem I had with this film was that it so it's very clear what the intent is, right? It's like to make fun of kind of this progressive ideology that honestly doesn't have a real place in the real world. And the way to showcase that was lady sports. You know, having men compete in women's sport, it just doesn't make sense on a very fundamental level. Um so I could get what it was trying to do, but it just seems like it went from, oh, here's a bunch of jokes we made in the break room between filming Daily Wire videos. Oh, let's put that into a film, but then all they did was put the jokes in the like the break room jokes in the film, and they didn't try to adapt it to make a movie. Um so like
It's a
the big
series of like
of
sketch
skits.
moments. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Inside jokes. My Mrs. Paul's talking about. She's like, this is like a bunch of guys with their inside jokes hanging out, thinking that they're funny to each other. They make each other laugh, and the rest of
yes.
us are like not in on the jokes. And I'm like, well, I'm in on the jokes, but the problem is we were told all the jokes in the trailer. They've spent all their jokes. They're not giving me any new jokes. They didn't do anything. They've already did everything in the trailer. So what you saw with the racing scene,
Mhm.
of course, the absurdity of that, the absurdity of the wrestling, the absurdity of the little guy dunking and then go slamming into little girls and whatever. All of that was already spoiled for me. So I didn't really laugh when it happened. Here's the thing, Vex. They didn't give me anything else. There's no that was not a tease for more absurdity. That was it. That was the top of the absurdity pool. There was no
Mhm.
the glass was full. That's my biggest letdown. Oh,
There was, so yeah, I agree with you there. It's like the like this punchline here where they're like talking about, oh, this is what all like intersectionality and transgenderism, all that stuff,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, so I can be a woman in sports, but I can still be a man in the bedroom. And it's just like,
Mhm.
okay, I guess I could have been like, I didn't find it funny either way. But I was like, okay, I could see the promise there, but then you spoiled the punchline of the joke in your trailer.
Mhm.
So that's just kind of, I guess, a basic marketing foul on their part. The other problem too is I noticed it couldn't narrow down what kind of comedy it wanted to be. So the overarching like influence of, you know, this whole transgenderism thing in sports and men being in female sports, you get that's supposed to be satire, but then like there's instances where it tries to introduce like slapstick humor where it doesn't work. They tried to do a little bit of the deadpan stuff with the reporter in particular, but it never really lands. So along the lines of that, you know, these are just a bunch of inside jokes or sketches put together. it's it doesn't it doesn't establish itself properly. Like, I really feel this film actually could have been semi decent if they had just revised the script a little bit more. Because the other thing too, and you pointed out, like we don't get into the sports stuff to like an
Yeah.
hour in,
It
but
takes
there's
it
a
takes an hour to get there, and then when
right.
we're there, it stops being about all of the other sports.
Mhm.
It's only about basketball,
Yeah.
but they're all talking about the other sports. So they all buy into this, false sense of celebrityism that it gives them all. They all have this sense of importance and fame now.
Hmm.
One's talking about qualifying for the global games in swimming or gymnastics and all these different things, and we see none of it. So,
Yep.
like I said, the absurdity is in the trailer. We see that we're right there with what we get. That's it. There's nothing else. We don't see anything else that should have been this montage of absurdity and whatever.
Hmm.
And instead we have these little moments where it's supposed to be like their conscience getting, I'm not sure it's the right thing to do, coach. Oh, you're fine. And then just keep going with the story. And another character will have another, well, I'm not sure we should be doing that. Oh, you're fine. And
Yep.
then it takes the daughter saying, I think I want to be like the guys too, so I can be, the best. And it's like, that's your twist. That's your. I was so let down and disappointed that there wasn't really any meat on the bone
Hmm.
with any of this. It's just
And like
like
the daughter,
WNBA jokes,
yeah.
magazine cover jokes. Ted Cruz shows up as a joke, and you're like, this is the little guy dunking joke.
Mhm.
Um, This is the we pants the black guy because he's got a big penis, and we have one of the guys make a comment about that's a big penis joke. Then you have the reporter, oh no, sorry, the commentators. Where do we get? Here we go. Here's the commentators who are progressively getting.
That was one of like two jokes I laughed at, by the way, because he's like, it's just like, but he goes, oh, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
that's kind of
so
funny.
there's several of these moments that are fine,
Hmm.
but they're in the trailer.
Yeah.
So again, I laughed at the trailer. I watched the trailer twice before I decided to even give the film a chance if it would be worth my time. And then I'm so disappointed that the trailer was the high mark for this film and nothing else kind of rose to level. What did you think about it? So setting all that aside, we've panned on it a little bit. What about the execution of the film? I didn't think it looked bad. I thought it looked okay. It wasn't anything special. It's low budget, but it was fine.
Yeah, I know some people harped on it for the production quality. I had no problem with it either. It's still, uh, I feel like that's a very small part of what they're trying to do, and it came off as kind of like B comedy a little bit. So I didn't have any problems with it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, yeah. Performances were sort of like mixed because I don't feel like they were actually acting. I think it's more like their personalities were just showing up on set to film a
Hmm.
scene or two or whatever. Like Shapiro was basically just being Ben Shapiro. He just happened to also be dressed as a referee for the gag.
Hmm.
Matt Walsh was the only one who at least tried to be a character that was mocking the stereotype that he describes and attacks on his show all the time. So he's
Hmm.
attacking the uber soy boy beta guy, all
He
this
did a
crazy.
great job. I think he's one of the standouts of this film.
It was probably the best element of the
Yeah.
show. I will say with these two, Brett Cooper, I'd forgotten her name, but they corrected me in my comments. But Brett Cooper and Michael Knowles, um, they were kind of themselves, but they were
Mhm.
like playing these commentators with like
Yeah.
getting more woke, not going woke, finger in the air to what are they in trouble? Or not? It's fine. It's
Mhm.
again the trailer spoiled too much of it. Like one, there's a couple of lead ups before they get to this that would have been better in the trailer because it would have given us an idea they were the commentators in it or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
I was just I didn't have a problem with the quality. I don't even care about the acting. Jeremy Boring's fine, not a professional actor. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
fine. His character's not really asked to do anything. So why am I supposed to judge him as being a bad actor or whatever? Like his character just he's just walking around being the dude. He's just a
It's just
guy.
Jeremy Boring, really.
He
That's all
didn't
it
have to
is.
go
Yeah.
he doesn't go into like an emotional crying moment with his daughter or anything like that. It's just, oh, okay. I see the light. It's like I don't feel that it's all just very passable stuff. The problem with the movie is they build it as being this comedy,
Mhm.
and it's just not that funny.
It's not, no. Again, like if this script had gone through some more like a bit of refining, I think it could have been because and like you said, it aside from this the skit kind of thing, it's like there's so many elements that are introduced, like you mentioned, that just don't play through fully. So like when when he picks up his daughter, for example, at the beginning of the movie, and
Right.
he's talking to the teacher, and she's got three masks, and he can't hear her. And then his daughter starts describing, oh, like here's what we learned, and
Right.
Mrs. So and so showed me her penis, and then it's just like, okay, so you willingly take advantage of that, but then when your daughter is very clearly present for a lot of the things you do, your character doesn't have any sort of like moral ambiguity that would make me actually care about what's happening to your character. Like you just seem to want to I just want to be famous. I just want to make money. My kid doesn't really matter, even though I kind of played up that I did care, especially when I go confront my ex-wife and her new, soy boy lover. So it like and then the kids all coming to play on the basketball court at the end. I was like,
It
what
made
was
no
the
sense
point of that?
whatsoever,
Yeah.
and it seemed like they could have had. So here's what I thought was going to happen. And again,
Mhm.
how much does this fix the movie?
Mhm.
So at the end of the film, or at least three quarters of the way in, they're all getting their sort of like their celebrity status of this one's going to be now he's qualified for swimming.
Mhm.
These two, they're brothers. They're going to go off. They got this hot chick. They're going to go be with whatever. I literally thought we were going to do dodgeball. I literally thought we were going to rip off dodgeball. If Chris is the only one that shows up for the game, he's the only one. They don't have any other players,
Yeah.
and the daughter and he or sort of this conflict about, and then the girls would play, or there'd be one other player, or they get one other guy to play or something like that. I don't know. I thought that was going to be sort of the twist, to at least have some sort of thing to not be mocking them or whatever.
Yeah.
And it all just felt, I think you're really hitting the nail on the head with the beginning part of the movie, right? So they're made, and I've said repeatedly, the catalytic converter theft story joke does not land for me. I just don't know
Does
the
not for me
story.
either.
And then it's like we go to, the X, and there's all this, and there's so much time wasted in the script about calling people by their names, like
Mhm.
Darb, no Darby, Rob, no Robert, like just
Yeah.
like it's all just tedious nonsense. We just don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this,
Mhm.
and that's why that first hour is just so boring, because you're just
Yeah.
like, none of this is relevant to you putting dudes in wigs to go beat up on little girls so you can feel good about yourself.
Mhm.
I also don't think they sell us. Maybe you tell me what you think. I don't think they ever sold me on why the guys are going to feel better about themselves. Like, I mean, they kind of paint them as, they paint them loosely as losers, but I don't think they
Mhm.
were really loser enough that I feel like this would be a reason to do it. I don't know. Maybe it's like grown-ups. I felt like there were all those flashbacks in grown-ups when they played as kids and
Mhm.
lost the big game. It was a reason to at least play a game.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, I felt like, why do these two guys care about what their coach thinks, or why do they think any of that matter? It didn't. It never felt real to me.
No, I'm with you right there. Like him, so when he runs into the first guy at the drag bar or restaurant or
Yeah,
whatever.
the dollhouse, which is like a Hooters, has been
Right.
transformed into basically like all the waitresses are in drag. They're all
Right.
dudes. Yeah,
So I was thinking like, oh, okay, with them introducing his character like that, maybe it's like, okay, maybe he can finally get out of waitressing here and do something with the sports career that he lost out on. But then there's a line that that same character makes later on where he's like, "Oh, I make really good money at the dollhouse site." So I'm just like, what is your reasoning as a character? Even Jeremy Boring's reason, his character, or was it Rob, right? Or
yeah.
Bob? Um,
Robert. Yeah,
Robert, even his reason for getting into it, it's like, okay, it's alluded to that he's having financial problems and that's why he ends up going to the dollhouse. But then in terms of just pushing it over to the, oh, let's compete as transgenders in women's sports, I don't understand what the character motivation was there. Like that's not explained. And again, this just goes back to we had a bunch of skits, a bunch of jokes we made in the back
yeah.
room. Let's just put it in a movie and it'll be perfect because we'll
Yeah,
be able to
loose.
make.
There's like these loose threads of, well, Chris won this, so he got $5,000. But if,
Mhm,
we can now audition for the. We can't call it the Olympics. We call it the Global Games,
mhm,
and we all want to be basketball players again, right?
mhm.
And you're like, do they? Why do they? I mean, I get it. I mean, it it wasn't really. I think they could have just skipped some of that and just done like you said, the dollhouse thing. Chris makes bunch of money, whatever,
Mhm,
and then the other guys are actually just there. They all are friends or
mhm,
whatever, and all they have to do is just do like what Chris has done. Chris actually has wigs and stuff for them. It would have been funny. Like he just likes to
mhm.
change it up at work, so he would have just been able to. No, guys, it's okay. You don't have to do anything here. I have stuff. You can just. Chris, why do you have so many? Thursday nights. This.
There
It's like
you go.
that would have been an easier way to cut out all of this, like the dude that's in the middle of the woods stuff
Mhm.
and all. It's such a waste of time. Let's just get to the gags, and then get your foot on the gas with the hyperbole, because I don't think they ever do. Have you seen the South Park episode, the Randy Savage Macho Man?
No, no, I've seen, I think, clips of it, but I haven't seen the
Oh
full
Lord,
episode.
Yeah. So obviously, the appropriate joke, or the appropriate correction for Daily Wire is,
Mhm,
you took something that South Park did years ago. You tried to make it into a feature film, and you didn't do it well. And that's
mhm,
really all there is to it. The Macho Man stuff was way much more over the top. It was really funny, and the
mhm,
and the writing in the South Park episode is fantastic.
mhm.
How they tie it all together, and really create like a kick in the groin for the metaphor for people who are basically being PC babies. Um, yeah, it's so let down. I don't know if you have you seen any of the other Daily Wire films or projects or anything. Are you familiar with any of the other things
I
they've done?
saw What is a Woman because that
Hmm.
I think that was the first like major one they put out if I remember correctly. So I just wanted cuz I think Matt Walsh for the most part, he's someone I enjoy watching from there and I like Michael Knowles a lot. But otherwise I've basically completely written off the Daily Wire because to me they're just they're the same. It's the other side to the same coin. Like they're just as bad as all of the things that they try to make fun of or mock, right? Um, but even with What Is a Woman, like it, just like every other documentary, it had a lot of bias. So
Mhm.
even though I could identify that, I was like, oh, it's a lot of people aren't aware of. Like I was already aware that there were, doctors trying to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
transition children and all of that stuff, but most people aren't aware of that, and most people aren't aware to ideologically how some of these people can be. Um, so I was just like, it's a good way to balance the coin. That's about it. But you have to understand there's a
Yeah,
lot of bias in it.
yeah, kind of. Terror on the Prairie is the Gina Carano led Western that they did. I thought it was all fine. It's a very satisfactory Western. It's not
Oh.
something extraordinary. We did a talk hard on it, and we all kind of felt like it's okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's a 5 or a 6. It's solid. It's a
Mm-hmm.
3 out of 5. It's okay.
Okay.
A couple of the other projects that they've done are more like they bought the rights to do them. So I think Run, Hide, Fight and Shut In, I think it's what it's called. Anyway, those
Mm-hmm.
are like someone else made it and they bought it for distribution. But here's
Gotcha.
my big thing, and I don't know, but we'll end with this, and that is, I think they really missed their chance to make a footprint with this movie because even though it's a bad movie, maybe they know how bad it is, but maybe they could have easily done like a Fathom event, one night event, done a box office type of thing that would have gotten the
Mm-hmm.
top 10, easily would have made the top 10, and at least would have been in the conversation of, look, this is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
We're not filmmakers first. We're actually commentators first, filmmakers second. And we wouldn't have to make this movie if you guys would actually have a sense of humor and laugh at yourself. So we didn't do a great job doing it, but we tried to do it. We had some jokes at your expense. That's why we did this movie. If they had a more humble approach to that, but I felt like they were trying to sell this more of like, we went there cutting edge, like, Hangover. I'm like,
We're
no, you
willing to
really
make the
needed.
jokes that everyone else isn't going to
It's
make, kind of
ridiculous. It's
deal.
like you
Yeah.
needed to call Judd Apatow or Todd Phillips to do a quick little markup on your script, and you would have been better served. But I do. I will say this for them too. They have been open. At least I've heard pieces of things now. I tried to
Mm-hmm.
shut everything off until I did my review. They did talk about several people that are like-minded conservative actors or whatever would not touch it. They didn't want any part of it because of the gender fluid conversation and stuff like that. So they knew that would
Mm-hmm.
even be worse for their career if they'd been. So maybe there are people who would have brought more to this project but didn't want to be a part of it for that reason. So that not to give them an out, but I can see that as being a problem. So, well, I don't know, Vex. I don't know. I don't
There
know,
was
man.
a, I don't know if you remember seeing it, but there was a film in 2003 called Sorority Boys. It was a
I know
comedy.
about it. Yeah.
So basically, these three college guys, they're getting kicked out of the fraternity. They don't know what to do. So they pretend to be women and they get into kind of this down, dungy kind of fraternity. And that they end up understanding what it's like to be women. They attend all these classes. They change some of the more problematic elements. Some of them find love. I In the brief review that I had wrote on another website, I just said if you want a movie that kind of explores some of the similar themes, just go watch that. You mentioned Dodgeball. If they had just done Dodgeball, this would have been so much better. So I like the runtime also just cut about a half hour of that film
Yeah, I was
could
shocked that
easily
it
go.
was because the jokes leading up to it was like they took a sketch and made it in 90 minutes, and this was almost 2 hours. It's like
Hmm.
way too long.
Way
But
too long.
this cross-dressing joke has been around for a long, long time. Tootsie
Mhm.
obviously is a classic film. Mrs. Doubtfire did stuff with this. There's things like that that can be done and can be
Mhm.
funny. I just don't think they went far enough. I think they did a trailer, and that was the peak.
Yep.
And they promise and they build that it's so much more than that, and it's just not. So
Yep.
anyway, so we've done a little more piling on Lady Ballers than we already have, so I thought that was good. So I don't know if that's good for the channel or not, but that's what we did, and I'm glad to have Vex here doing it with me, folks. Everything is in the description. Make sure you check out her stuff. We actually have other videos as well, and we'll put together a little Vex list of videos of stuff that we've talked together. We love hanging out together. So thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pops.